All right, everyone, is your phone on silent? Or as we say in the Marine Corps, is your phone on pleasure? Well, that might be the most inappropriate start to an episode we've had yet. But hey, welcome back to episode 5. We got a good one. Well, a shorty but a goodie for you. We're going to talk about Trump getting COVID. We're going to talk about, I almost said, we have this next part titled something, but I'm not going to.
Well, we're not going to use the title. Basically, the Supreme Court status of the Obergefell-Hodges decision and Kim Davis being denied the writ of... Let's see how Google says it.
How does the computer say it? We can never...
Certiorari.
Certiorari.
Dude, I've listened to that at least 15 times.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna need to like duct tape my mouth shut during that session because like I just want to make comments, dude. So it took us like probably an hour. Like we should have been done with this like an hour ago, but it took us an hour to start recording because I don't even know what it was. You know, we might have to have a little after hours segment that if you donate to us, you might get access to, if you know what I'm saying. That's still up. That's still up in the air. But anyways,
I wasn't even here an hour ago.
Trevor wasn't here an hour ago. You missed a lot of it. But hey, anyway, so the last section we're going to talk about is we're going to switch up Monday's episodes a little bit. We got some changes coming your way, and we're going to actually want some feedback from you guys to see what you think, and you know.
We'll just present a bunch of different ideas that we've had for things we can do for Monday's episodes, and we just kind of want to get your feedback and see what you guys would be the most interested in.
Yep, Fridays are going to be the same as they've been. They'll be the longer, more serious political stuff. Mondays we're going to try to make more more fun and entertaining for you. But let's get right into it, you know. Trump getting COVID. Actually, first I want to start by reading some of these nasty comments that people have been saying about Trump getting Twitter. Pray for... Never mind. I'm not going to read that one. So this, I'm not gonna give names either, just because I don't know. Maybe they're listening. You think they're listening?
They're not listening.
They're not listening.
No.
All right. Well, still, I'm gonna spare them.
Yeah, no need. Just read the tweets.
So this one girl says, "Spare a thought tonight for the families of more than 200,000 Americans who died in this pandemic. Many of them, according to public health experts, unnecessarily because of America's botched response. Trump, it's all your fault." They're still blaming Trump for the U.S. COVID deaths. It's like
We've already talked about it. Like, you really can't. You can blame Trump to an extent.
It's still happening, and people are saying like, "Oh, I'm sending prayers for Trump, praying that he rolls over in his grave." Like,
see that's the thing that's crazy to me.
And Twitter actually, I'm not October 2nd. So when was that? Was that last Friday?
That was
last Friday. All these people were blowing, like, it was number one on trend. People saying all this horrible stuff about Trump, hoping he dies, hoping him and Melania don't recover, like, do us a favor and die. Twitter came out and said, "Tweets that wish or hope for death, serious bodily harm, or fatal disease against anyone are not allowed and will need to be removed. This does not automatically mean suspension." So they came out and said they're going to suspend people.
Well, I mean, you almost have to when it's that obvious.
Will they do it? Probably not, but hey.
I can at least appreciate them coming out and saying that for how much they censor conservative ideals and thoughts. That makes me feel a little bit better.
They would never. They are fair.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, never mind. They're not. Anyways, so I just wanted to read some of those things and just kind of get that out there because it's been a rough week for Trump.
Yeah.
Like, it's awful. The left is the party of love and acceptance. Just go read.
Unless you're the right.
Go read some of these tweets.
Honestly, like, the hatred these people have for Trump is just something else.
Yeah. We were going to do something totally different with this segment. Like, we could have bored you with all the explaining what would happen if he died, but it's not going to happen,
it's
considering he was released from the hospital an hour and a half ago. So,
yeah, Lord willing, he makes a speedy recovery.
Yeah, it sounds like he's doing really well.
Yeah.
Was out for a couple days.
Yeah, and dude, Democrats are miserable that he's still alive. It's so blatantly obvious how upset they are that he didn't die. It's disgusting. Like, it's frustrating, to be honest with you.
Well, when you think about how seriously they take COVID and how seriously they've been, everybody's freaking out. You don't have your mask on, and they always complain about Trump.
But it's fine for Pelosi to go get her hair done without a mask.
It really is. It's just...
I mean, they just blame Trump for everything, so this is just another opportunity to pile on.
Yeah.
So Trump is, one of the headline is he's going back to a COVID-infested White House, which...
It's partially true.
There's quite a few.
It's
there's a few
definitely
people
been
that have,
spreading.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read some of the names here of people that have COVID in the White House right now. The press secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Say that 5 times fast, Trey.
McEnany. Oh, that's the first time.
That's impressive.
Let's
That's the first time all night he's been able to do that. I do it, and it sounds like I'm saying mac and cheese. So I'm not gonna try.
Dude, I love her though. She's amazing.
Oh my word, yeah, she's awesome.
She was taking a lot of heat today too. I was watching CNN earlier. Literally, hour and a half. I had it on, all about Trump and McEnany.
You mean the anti-Trump channel?
The Communist News Network?
McEnany 2024. That's all I gotta say.
Hey.
But no, apparently, she was briefing reporters and she didn't have a mask on, so they were flipping out that she knew she could have possibly had COVID and still didn't wear a mask. But it was outside and there was distant. I don't get it. What were you gonna say?
Nothing. It's good I didn't say it.
We'll move on then.
Pastor Greg Laurie. He's the pastor from Riverside, California. He tested positive. He had attended the prayer march on the mall with Mike Pence and Franklin Graham. Mike Pence, by the way, tested negative. First Lady Melania Trump, obviously, she tested positive. She's doing well, by the way. Trump said, he came out and said she's doing pretty good, so thank God for that. At least 2 White House communication aides as of now have COVID. What are their names? Chad Gilmartin and Caroline Levitt. Is that how you say that? Levitt? Levitt. Yeah. Senior Presidential Advisor Hope Hicks. 2 members of the housekeeping staff. We don't have names, but 2 members of the housekeeping staff have COVID. White House aide Nick Luna. And Trump's campaign manager Bill Stipin. I think that's how you say that. Did I say that right? Stipine?
Close enough.
Whatever.
Yeah, doesn't really matter.
And Ronna McDaniel. Wow. The Republican National Committee chairwoman. There's a few others, but there's
definitely making its way through.
It's making its way through.
I mean, hopefully everyone's going to be all right and it won't be an issue. But
well, yeah, I mean, he's getting back on his high horse. He's going to be out there. He dominated COVID. Now he's getting ready to dominate Joe Biden. Am I right?
Give me one. Twitter today.
Give me a high five. Yeah, he blew up on Twitter. It was awesome.
I mean, stuck in the hospital, nothing else to do, right?
Plays on his phone all day.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I guess he's been really he went on that drive that everyone's freaking out about right now because he left the hospital, but I guess he's been itching to get out. We already know he hates hospitals, so he's been ready to go.
Oh yeah, and you think of what his schedule's been like and his travel. He's been going from one rally to another, doing his work during the day, rallies at night. So to be cooped up in a hospital for a couple days, it's got to be really different for him.
You go from 100 to 0 real quick.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully that's been good for him. He tweeted out and said
he definitely deserves it.
Feels younger.
The dude's been. I mean,
he needs some.
Whether you're a Trump supporter or not, the dude's been working hard the last 3.5 years. Yeah.
I mean, the energy he brings at his age too is just incredible.
Yeah,
and we witnessed that when we went to the rally.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just so awesome listening to him. He was so it's one thing to see him on TV, but when you're there in person, he's just so down to earth and was just so relaxed and just talking to you he's a guy you'd want to sit and have a beer with or something. It's just awesome.
We don't drink.
Soda.
We're Christians. We don't drink.
I don't actually. Trump doesn't drink either, does he?
I don't know.
Really? I thought that was a big thing. Yeah.
Seriously.
I heard that a while back.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if that's
true. I feel
true,
he would. I feel he does, or at least did. He used to probably. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw that somewhere a while back. Might not be true, but
I don't know. But let's move on to the next section.
Yeah, so I mean today
I almost read it again.
Today was a pretty big day, the beginning of the October Supreme Court term.
If this happens, I will be proud to be an American once again.
So unfortunately,
that I told you I was going to read.
Unfortunately, today was a step in the opposite direction, though. So, like I mentioned in the intro, Kim Davis, she is or was. Let's see if I can pull this up. Where's that?
Awkward pause.
I know, right? So she's a former county clerk in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and she was responsible for authorizing marriage licenses. So she's also a devout Christian, and after the Obergefell-Hodge decision, she was sued a lot because she refused to do things that went against her religion.
Which, for those that don't know, what is that decision, Trey?
Yeah, so that was the decision that basically allowed gay marriage in the United States.
Yep.
So the right to same-sex marriage. And basically, the court decided that they weren't going to hear it. They refused the petition for writ of certiorari. I think I got that. It's a crazy word. But yeah, basically, they appealed to the Supreme Court, and the court is not going to hear the case. But Justice Thomas wrote a dissent about the refusal and just about the original Obergefell v. Hodges case, and then also Kim Davis versus David Ermold. That was the case that was being appealed. So there's a lot of really important things that he talks about.
There's a ton of information here.
Yeah. So like in a 4-page dissent, he just so much that he talks about.
We have some highlighted stuff that what the court's alteration of the Constitution. I think it's good to go into that.
Well, yeah, and this is big stuff as Christians too. Huge,
and we're a Christian-based podcast, so this kind of hits home for us.
Definitely. So I'm just going to read how he begins the dissent. So he says, in Obergefell v. Hodges, 576 U.S. 644, 2015, the court read a right to same-sex marriage into the 14th Amendment, even though that right is nowhere found in the text.
Nowhere in the text.
So yeah,
is that found.
If you look at the 14th Amendment, there's nothing about that in there. It's not. But in that decision, they basically read that right into the 14th Amendment. So basically, members of the court noted that the court's decision would threaten the religious liberty of many Americans who believe that marriage is a sacred institution between one man and one woman. So obviously, that affects religious freedom for Christians who would oppose the decision of that case. And
this is where it gets really hard. We as Christians, marriage is one man, one woman. But for those who aren't Christians, Kate and I have actually had conversations about this. How far do you go for, I don't know. It's just it's a hard topic.
I think it depends.
It's a hard topic because you're afraid of offending people, and
I'm probably against Stray on this one. I'm of the opinion that they should have the legal right to marry.
So I would disagree with that because of the definition of marriage, right? So if I think of
according to
what though? That's the question.
As biblical,
which the country though is
do we hold everyone accountable to biblical standards? Even if they
I don't think it applies here. So I'd basically take the side that they should be granted the legal rights of marriage in the United States, but technically they are not married in the same way that a man and a woman could be.
Yeah, but legally under the United States, they are. And that's where this question
which I think should be allowed.
And I think should be allowed.
I don't disagree with that. But where it impacts...
what
this
impacts
case right here
is the rights of others.
The rights of others and basically their First Amendment right.
Yep.
And their religious liberties are at stake because of this 14th Amendment and the anti-discrimination stuff that goes into that.
And I'm actually writing a paper on this for school right now. It's going to be interesting. I haven't formed my own opinion. I haven't decided where I fall, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works out for me. But
it's definitely an interesting topic.
Well, yeah, and Thomas, he brings up a lot of interesting stuff here. So he doesn't necessarily have a problem with the decision itself, but more about how they went about it and some of the things that they missed. So he talks about how they could have included accommodations for those who hold religious beliefs that are the opposite of the decision, right? But they didn't do that. And they also bypassed that democratic process of legislation that would have been the proper means in that case. The court's job is not to legislate. And that's kind of what they did in this case by reading the right to same-sex marriage into the 14th Amendment. So
honestly, it's kind of scary, how that's becoming a normal and we don't even realize it. To the average person who's not doing a podcast and looking up this information on the regular, it says here that the court's alteration of the Constitution. That's actually happening. They're trying to do away with the Constitution, rewrite it.
Exactly.
That's bad news.
And that's why like the Supreme Court pick is so important.
Huge.
That we're getting justices that are textualists, that are going to be reading the Constitution as written and determining it based on that, not reading other things into the Constitution that aren't there, which is what happened in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically it doesn't account for any like protection for people with religious beliefs. Later on in the dissent, he says it would be one thing if recognition for same-sex marriage had been debated and adopted through the democratic process, with people deciding not to provide statutory protections for religious liberty under state law. But that's not what happened here. So that's where he has the problem with it. It's not that he's saying that it should be overturned, but that those things are important and religious liberty needs to be protected.
Definitely.
He also brought up another like pretty interesting point. I want to get your opinion on this, where basically the decision brands religious adherents as bigots and like making their religious liberty concerns much like easier to dismiss, and taking good people who would have been viewed as good people, like religious people throughout history have been typically viewed as like good moral people.
Yeah.
Now they're viewed as villains.
Mm-hmm.
They're intolerant. They're bigots.
Yep, intolerant. That's a big one.
I think that's a crazy culture shift from where, go back even before the foundation of America, the reason a lot of people came to America, besides economic prosperity, was religious freedom. A lot of the groups that came to America were for religious freedom.
I think that's the only reason at the beginning. I mean, who knew they didn't know what was going to be over here for economic purposes. Like, they were only here because they're like, hey, I want to go worship my God, you know.
Yeah, apart from like the Anglican Church.
Yep.
Yeah, because that was so dictated in their lives of how you have to behave in every single way, to turn around and say, oh, okay, now as 2020, we're going to start, dictating how you live your lives, and we're going to flip the script of, we were a country founded on religious freedom. Now we are trying to... the question becomes, is someone's sexuality upheld in the same right as someone's religious freedom? Is their sexual freedom the same as religious freedom? And
honestly, I don't think it should be.
Like, and that's a really tough question.
I don't think it has to be one or the other. Like, obviously, as a Christian, I'd say that one would be wrong.
I think it does have to be one or the other, just because in the conflict we see here. Like, you could say, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but yeah, there are times that it becomes conflicted issues.
Yeah.
Listen, I think if you own your own business, if it's yours, private,
I think private business owners should have the right.
You don't want to serve someone. You shouldn't be forced to.
But there's been issues with
federal buildings.
But then that goes into that plays into race too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a problem. That really is a legitimate problem.
But when you look at like the Civil Rights Act of '64, like that kind of talks about.
I think
that's definitely been addressed.
As a Christian, where I personally fall is, my goal is to, even as someone understanding that someone's not a Christian that I'm going to be having this interaction with, maybe it changes if they're a Christian or not, but let's say for, this sake that they're a Christian, my goal is, and my job is to love you, not to judge you by my standards. So I would be the guy that, bakes the cake or signs a marriage, license, even though I disagree with it. I think PJ, our Bible professor, had a great way of going about this. He was asked, what do you do in a situation of a gay wedding? He said, I wouldn't officiate it. He said, but I would show up to the reception. Because he's a pastor. He said, I would refuse to officiate it, but I would show up to the reception because I support you as an individual, and I support you and I love you. I would show up at your reception, but I wouldn't show up for the ceremony. I wouldn't conduct that ceremony, just because it's something I disagree with. Which is something that goes even further than just baking a cake or giving them a marriage license. That's even further of, would you officiate for them? Well,
I think marriage is different. Baking a cake's one thing, but if you're asked to officiate a marriage,
well, as a Christian,
that totally goes against the very specific. What would you call it?
You can just say
outline of what marriage is. One man, one woman. That would probably be the only time I would reject them. Or not reject them, but I wouldn't do it based off my religious convictions. But if a gay couple came to me and I had a business and they're like, hey, can you bake us a cake? I'm going to bake them a cake.
And
why cause a big deal about it, honestly?
That's your opinion, but there are people who
there are people
have
that disagree,
beliefs
and
that
right.
they wouldn't do that. And it should be their right to refuse that.
Yeah.
That's the question.
If it's private. Federal, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a different story.
Yeah. I disagree. I think maybe they're right or not. I think they shouldn't, do that. But if that's then the question becomes rights and not rights. That's teaching of Christian belief. Do we do how we teach each other? But yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
that was
the thing
quite
is,
the tangent.
The person who wouldn't bake the cake, they're viewed as hateful. Like
Oh,
they're viewed as
yeah.
bigots. And like Thomas has so many good quotes in here that like.
Did you grab a few of them?
I'm gonna read one more here. So he says that like since the Obergefell decision, parties have continually attempted to label people of goodwill as bigots merely for refusing to alter their religious beliefs in the wake of prevailing orthodoxy. So we've definitely seen that shift in our culture, where it's almost explicitly anti-Christian. And for the people who refuse,
well, I mean, they're trying to do away with anything Christian nowadays because it's again intolerant. That's the biggest word. People like saying you're a Christian today, at least from what I've experienced, usually puts a bad taste in people's mouth towards you. It's like, oh well,
I mean, a lot of people in my circles, that's not necessarily the case. But like when you see it on a larger, like a national scale as far as the culture, like it's definitely moving in that direction. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he finished the dissent with something a little bit similar to that. And he says, by choosing to privilege a novel constitutional right over the religious liberty interest explicitly protected in the First Amendment, and by doing so undemocratically, the court has created a problem that only it can fix. Until then, Obergefell will continue to have ruinous consequences for religious liberty. So, when we look at that this is the thing most people had a problem with, where he basically said, the court has created this problem and they've done it in a way that's undemocratic because they've legislated it. And that's not the job of the judiciary. So he's basically saying the court needs to fix it. And people have a problem. And that's what you alluded to at the beginning, right? The possible overturning of the initial decision.
Yeah, this is something we'll see.
That was a lot, but we'll
see how it plays out. But we're going to take a quick break. Ad guy. Got to get our ad guy in here. We got to make some money somehow.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a great podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
And welcome back. Normally we do that in the middle of the episode, but this one's pretty much right at the end. We're going to wrap this up real quick.
You didn't thank me for the ad this time.
Because you know what, Trevor? You skipped pretty much the entire prep of this episode. You were gone.
You haven't said anything the whole episode. You're just kind of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have a chance to prepare. You guys didn't wait for me.
Dude, we got business.
Say why?
Listen, you know what you're doing right now? We talked about keeping Monday's episode short. You're making it longer because now I have to address you, and that takes me away from the viewers, man.
You don't have to. You're choosing to.
You know what? Pause button.
Talk about the next couple of episodes.
All right. So here's what's going to happen. We're changing up our Monday episodes. They're going to be shorter for people that drive to work on Mondays. We're going to try to keep them shorter, a lot shorter than today's. Don't worry. We're going to try to keep them between 10, 15, preferably would be nice.
Less than 20 for sure.
Yeah. Well, less than 20 is,
We're going to go for that.
We'll try. We'll try our best.
This one was supposed to be pretty short.
Yeah, it was. But we had some good conversation, as Kate said earlier. All right. We're not sure what we're going to call them yet. We'll come up with some fun names for it as we go, probably. But we'll try to keep them unpredictable. Keep you guys guessing as to, what Monday's episodes are going to be. Things like Cade's conspiracies. He's big into these conspiracy theories. So we're going to have some segments dedicated.
Not conspiracy, they're the truth. They're the truth.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to that one. Oh, and we're going to start doing a weekly verse. For the whole week, we're going to do a verse on Monday, and that'll be our verse. again, Christian podcast. I'm gonna make sure we stick to that. It's the most important thing. So we're gonna have a verse, and it's gonna be I don't know if I was to say theme. It'll just be something that we're gonna live by for the week, and hopefully you guys do it as well.
Let us know your favorite verses, and we might use a couple of those in the upcoming weeks.
So Trev, you're not supposed to be talking right now, but he's not wrong.
When you don't have
to
a
hear
mic,
some of your suggestions.
you don't speak, Trevor.
So for those of you who didn't hear, they said, let us know your favorite verses, and we'll kind of work some of those into the podcast.
And I'll say it, Trevor's going to have a little bit more mic time. So for everyone that's like, stop being mean to Trevor. Why doesn't Trevor have a mic? He's going to get some mic time, okay? You happy?
We're going to go pick up some more mics probably tomorrow. So good stuff.
Be all right, man. Be all right. We'll talk sports. We're big into sports, all of us here. We're currently watching the Heat-Lakers series. Go Lakers.
Heat in 6.
I'm pretty much a LeBron fan, honestly. Wherever he goes, I go. That's
pretty much wherever he goes. That's like my least favorite team, and I always have to root against them.
I was a LeBron fan until last night when we watched that game. He was ridiculous in that game. He was complaining about everything. He was awful.
I missed it.
Anyways,
I was out watching the Eagles.
They
beat the 49ers. That's insane. Anyways, so stuff like that. We know some of you might not care so much for sports, but
we'll keep that stuff short.
I know we do have listeners that do. So, movie reviews. For those of you that don't know me, which is probably a lot of you, I love movies. And I've had a lot of people say, hey, you should do some movie reviews. So we'll do some of that. I mean, honestly, anything. If you guys have any suggestions, this is where we want you guys to get involved. Like, seriously, DM us on Instagram and be like, hey, you guys should do a segment on this. Yeah, and we'll seriously consider doing it. At this point, we'll do, honestly, give us a good comment. We'll, give us something funny. We'll read it. We'll do it on the show. It'll be great.
Exactly, yeah. Like our first episode, we talked a lot about like just wanting to hear from you guys, and we're willing to talk about whatever. And honestly, that makes our job easier. We don't have to research so much easier. Stuff. And like we have set topics, we don't have to worry about figuring those out. So that's really helpful for us, and we'd really appreciate it.
And with that said, we're going to wrap this episode up. We went way longer than expected, but hey, catch you guys on Friday.